Welcome in one and all. Welcome to the Sports with Talk podcast. How are you today? How are you? Probably a lot better than some NFL teams that are in New Jersey. Just saying. Just saying. Probably better than some teams in the Carolinas. But I tell you who you're not better than. You're not better than the teams in Kansas City or Baltimore or Detroit. Boy, was there plenty of interesting action taking place on Sunday. And before we jump into it, as always, make sure to subscribe if you're new to the podcast. Like the podcast, it really helps out with the analytics. It's a report that YouTube sends me at the end of every month. And then, as always, comment and ring the notification bell so that you get notified whenever a podcast goes live here on Sports Talk with Hawk. So as we jump into this, one more shout out. You guys may have noticed there are animated screens now. They got done after I recorded the Picks podcast, so I added it in afterwards. But these are done by Draven, my graphics artist. He created these. I freaking love them. I've got one more that'll actually be on tomorrow night's 3 and 3 podcast. So huge shout out to Draven. Thank you so much. I absolutely love this one. The stadium, the feel. I want to put music to it. I freaking love it. I may be doing live podcasts here in the future, here in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. That's going to require potential life changes that are happening. But if everything aligns, I'll actually be doing live podcasts, which would be absolutely great. So it's Tuesday morning, early Tuesday morning. And we're going to focus primarily on the quarterback aspect of almost every game. We're going to do a recap, but it's going to be quarterback centric. So when you take a game, and we're going to take a random game, Kyler Murray versus Justin Herbert, Chargers versus the Cardinals. That game showcased the faults of the Chargers and how bad of a coach Arizona has. Do not get the wrong idea or narrative. Kyler Murray had Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach. He wasn't a tough guy. He wasn't really a tough guy, but an outstanding play caller. Just ask Jayden Daniels. And now Marcus Mariota. We'll get to that game here in a second. Just ask them. The play calling is fantastic. Head coaching may not have been great, but the play calling was. Now you're stuck with a lackluster play caller. You've got Marvin Harrison, Greg Dortch, You got Tanner McBride. You have James Conner, Trey Benson, Emery DeCardo, and you put up 17 points. Last week you put up 14. Come on. Stop with the excuses. Just stop. Kyler Murray is a B quarterback. He's a Dak Prescott. He needs two receivers. He needs Larry Fitzgerald and Marvin Harrison Jr. He needs a top 10 offensive line. He's got a good running back. He's got two. Trey Benson, I think, is going to be fantastic when they move off of James Conner. Trey Benson, I love out of Florida State. They've got a really good tight end. But in the game tonight, Chargers versus the Cardinals, it was, I mean, on one side you got Justin Herbert, who is engineering drives. For some reason, they had zero run game, which is abnormal. Zero run game. And Justin Herbert just has yardage and yardage and yardage. McConkey is a good receiver. I believe he's a number 2 right now. He's not a number 1. They have no number 1 receiver. They still have holes on their offensive line. I think they can make the playoffs. But if I'm the Chargers, I'm trying to trade Khalil Mack. I need draft capital. I need to think about the future more than I need to think about this year. You're not beating the Chiefs. You're not beating the Texans. You're not beating the Bills. You're definitely not beating the Ravens, and we'll see that here in a couple weeks. You're not ready for that yet. So don't hold on to a chance to get one extra win. I don't think that even would happen by trading Khalil Mack. Don't cling on to something that you don't have to. Get a 3rd-round pick for Khalil Mack. Get a 4th-round pick for Khalil Mack. Shoot, at this point, trade him to Detroit. Detroit may be willing to overpay. They don't need a 1st-round pick. I'm serious. They could go get Hassan Reddick. They could go get Max Crosby. They could go get Zadarius Smith. They could go after Khalil Mack. Absolutely. They're going for win now in December. You know what? I'll take Zadarius Smith. I'll take Khalil Mack over Hassan Reddick right now. I think both of those guys are veterans. They'd be leaders. They'd understand the situation and be very productive defensive players. But to stay on the quarterback, Herbert looked better than Murray. Murray wins the football game because currently Arizona has more weapons than they should have. They should have. I don't think the coaching is good at all. I still think Gannon gets fired at the end of the year. Just not good enough. Just not good enough. All right, Lamar Jackson versus Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield loses Mike Evans, re-aggravating a hamstring. Chris Godwin now has a dislocated ankle. So the wide receiver room for the Buccaneers getting into the middle of the season is very injured. Jalen McMillan will be taking the place of Godwin. Evans, I'm not sure what the timeline is on him yet. Still waiting on that. That'll come out today. We know Godwin's going to be out for a little while. It's a dislocated ankle. So we'll see what happens. But Lamar Jackson proved why he's MVP. Baker Mayfield proved why you don't pay millions and millions of dollars for. It's really what it comes down to. And Baltimore is an absolute genius for getting Derrick Henry, and Jerry Jones sucks at being a GM because he didn't go get him. Just embarrassing. Just embarrassing. All right, the Sunday night football game. Aaron Rodgers versus Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson looked good in an Arthur Smith offense. Now, the year with Sean Payton it wasn't bad. Remember, they rattled off 5 wins in a row. Sean Payton just didn't like Russell Wilson. Really, the team didn't like Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was, last night, I should say Sunday night, what Russell Wilson is. Moving out of the pocket, play action. It's where he had success in in Seattle. It's where he had success. So, does it shock me that the offense worked for him? No. Arthur Smith's offense is perfect for Russell Wilson. I absolutely think that it'll be what Russell Wilson needs to do. Aaron Rodgers gets his buddy, targets him 8 times, tries to force feed him, get 3 receptions. The defense looks lackluster because Saleh was the best defensive coach. I'm going to continue to say it. I want Robert Saleh as the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts next year. Because I think Shane Steichen is going to somehow be able to retain his job, even though they're about ready to go on a 5-game losing streak. I think he'll be able to retain his job, fire Bradley, bring in Saleh, bring in the 34, and let's see what we can do. Anyway, Aaron Rodgers looked like garbage. He is a pocket passer. He is an old pocket passer. He has very little movement. He doesn't want to get hit. He is afraid of his critics being correct. And the Jets are now 2-5. Some people were saying they were the best 2-4 team in the country last week. You're now 2-5. And the Raiders put up more fight in Los Angeles on the road against the Rams than you did against Pittsburgh. Just saying. Jacksonville's now 2-5. You're going to play each other. Loser gets the better draft pick. So there you go. But Aaron Rodgers, I said at the beginning of the year, I didn't believe any of the hype. You're now 2-5. Can you climb out of it? Sure. But their schedule, it's going to allow them to potentially get to 8 wins, maybe 9, because they do have a relatively light schedule. But if Tua Tagovailoa comes back and the Dolphins start humming again, Dolphins are going to go 7-10. And you are going to need to have something to be able to stop the Dolphins' offense. Speaking of the Dolphins, the next game, the Indianapolis Colts against the Miami Dolphins, I was there, Lucas Oil Stadium. Dallas Clark getting his number put into the Ring of Honor, or I should say himself into the Ring of Honor. Lots of Colts legends there for that day, especially of that Peyton Manning era. And it was good. It was good. I should say, halftime was awesome. Halftime was freaking fantastic. It was amazing. No, it wasn't amazing. The game. The game. Anthony Richardson again. Inaccurate throwing the football. Absolutely inaccurate throwing the football. Just bad. Tyler Goodson kind of ran okay, but they ended up having to run with Anthony Richardson a lot. I will tell you, the first scramble he made, where he slid on that first scramble, there was an eruption of applause in the stands. Anthony Richardson also acknowledged he heard all the boos. He heard all of the boos. And that is, in a nutshell, what this team is now. Inaccurate quarterback. It's a very inaccurate quarterback. Super potential. But that's really where it stops. Not much else. And I don't want to hear about Jonathan Taylor will fix it, make it better, they'll have their run game. No. I really don't get why Jonathan Taylor is feared. That offensive line doesn't change. It doesn't matter when you're stuffed in the backfield. Tyler Huntley made some really nice throws. He got injured in the third quarter. This starts the injury process. So here we go. Injured quarterbacks. Tyler Huntley, shoulder injury. Third stringer Tim Boyle comes in. Honestly, it's the only reason the Colts won. Only reason. They were losing. And they were losing handily. Very handily. The halftime score was 10-3, guys. I'm looking at my notes over the game. I was sitting there up in the stands, taking notes. Incompletion, missed wide open guys. Not reading the field. It was bad. And Tyler Huntley, listen, this Dolphins offense right now, without Tua, they're not very dynamic. They ran the ball down the throats. They shortened the game. They did exactly what I told them they needed to do. They did exactly what I said they had to do. They shortened the game. They ran the ball down the throats. The game was 16-10. They had a legitimate shot to be able to win it at the end of the game. But you're down to your third string quarterback. Tua is set to return this week. So Tyler Huntley injured. Anthony Richardson just bad, but the Colts get the W. Aiden O'Connell for the Las Vegas Raiders was wildly consistent and accurate throwing the football. He throws a pass, his hand slaps a defender's forearm. Broken thumb, out for 4 to 6 weeks. Gardner Minshew is back in. Minshew doesn't run a bad offense outside of the fact that he just turns the ball over time and time and time again. So Aiden O'Connell injured 4 to 6 weeks out. Matthew Stafford and the Rams, Sean McVay still feels like he's just kind of treading water as they're still trying to get Cooper Kupp back, Puka Nacua back. They really need some big-time players. Kyren Williams, absolutely a stud. Matt Stafford doing what he needs to do. Rams get the W. Raiders, I believe, need to be in sell mode. We'll see what happens this week. Then Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson pops his Achilles, out for the year, and the Cleveland Brown fans are happy. And I am not going to lie, with Jameis Winston, this team is a dark horse to beat you. I know they already traded away Amari Cooper. This team is not going to fire Kevin Stefanski. They understand it's their problem that they signed him to a long-term contract. They were wrong. Stefanski had nothing to do with it. He's not going to get fired. If he does, it'll be the biggest mistake. Well, one of the 5 biggest mistakes the Cleveland Browns have ever made. The Cincinnati Bengals didn't look good. They don't look good at all. The Browns had a legitimate shot to beat them. I dare say if Winston started the game, they potentially would have. I think Winston gives the Browns a big-time arm to just throw it downfield, get the defense to back off, Nick Chubb running the ball. They're going to be feisty. They're going to be fierce. I figure they'll be between pick 5 and 6 by the time the season's over. Pick 5 or 6 by the time the season's over. Maybe even 7 or 8. And I say that for this reason. You've got the Browns at 1 win. You got the Patriots, the Panthers, the Titans. The Raiders are at 2 wins. After tonight, the Cardinals are now at 3. So the Cardinals are pushing themselves up draft slots instead of down the draft slots instead of up towards the top of the draft. The Giants are going to be bad. They may be making a QB change. I could see the Browns being 7, 8, maybe 9. They're going to get draft picks. I would trade Smith and get another 4th-round pick. That's what I would do. And no, I don't care who's calling. Unless it's the Ravens, you can have Smith, even in conference. Now, if it's the Lions, I'm like, please. He's out of conference. We don't have to worry about that trade coming back to beat us. But Watson being out is going to change how Cleveland approaches things. Joe Burrow doesn't look great. Cincinnati doesn't look great. It's October now. They better, something's going to have to change. And I'm not really sure what it is. I'm really not. The team doesn't look good. Another team that's going to have to be ready for potential change, Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels, rib injury. They're more annoyance, pain. They're going to be careful. They're going to keep him out of the next game, which I believe is very smart. Keep him out of the next game. Marcus Mariota starts, which means expect a lot of screenplay, screen pass, the running game. Running game's been doing good. Expect a lot of that, and we'll see how the game ends. Jaden Daniels hurt. He is week to week. Tyler Huntley, Aiden O'Connell, Deshaun Watson, all injured. Another person that probably wishes that he had an injury to blame something on, Brock Purdy against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Brock Purdy loses the game. Patrick Mahomes wins the game. I will give him credit. Noah Gray had a huge day as a tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Xavier Worthy, very timely catches. Hardman, Andy Reid doing the play calling was beautifully mastermind. Outstanding job. Outstanding job. Brock Purdy, 3 interceptions, proving that you cannot trust him to beat big teams. He missed so many throws. Horrible intercept. I mean, bad interceptions, and not even disguised interceptions. Just bad. Not even special disguises. Just horrible throws. Brock Purdy, absolutely bad. I don't think he helped his case for a long contract. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have his star running back, star receiver, second receiver. Beats you. You don't have your star running back. First receiver goes down with an injury. Second receiver ends up going to the hospital. Deebo Samuel has a case of pneumonia. So we'll monitor how he ends up being able to play, whether or not he ends up being able to play as we go through the week. Man. Who's next? Let's see. The team I said we're going to get to because of the benching. Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles whoop up on the New York Football Giants. Jalen Hurts didn't look good. Kind of looked pedestrian. Saquon Barkley is Saquon Barkley. They had him stuffed, and then he breaks the 51-yard run, and the game is over. Daniel Jones gets benched for Drew Lock, beginning of the fourth quarter. Jalen Hurts, Kenny Pickett comes in and spells him because they're there. Look for the Giants to sell some of their one-year contracts, maybe some of their more expensive 2-year deals, depending on how they feel, as they're basically now getting ready for the draft and for next year. There's no other commentary I can put on the Giants. We've been on Daniel Jones for a long time. Dable can't save him. He's not a good quarterback. He's not an NFL quarterback. He won't be offered a backup position. He should go coach now in college, use his ability, use his knowledge, use his experience to help benefit future players. That's what he should do. All right, the quarterback that's really in trouble now as far as potentially benching, and not necessarily from a coaching aspect, but from a fan aspect. Kirk Cousins is in trouble. 3 straight turnovers. Interception, fumble, scoop and score for the Seahawks. I said it last week. The Falcons needed the W. It was a big game for them to prove they can play with their level of players, their level of talent in their own conference. Kirk Cousins was the problem. Bijan Robinson over 100 yards rushing. Kirk Cousins couldn't throw the dang ball. I believe that is now only one game where he has not thrown an interception this year. One. Come on. One. The chance for Michael Penix have started. Now, good news for them. Buccaneers lost 2. So now they're going to end up playing each other. These games against each other are determining everything. If they split these games, well, division's wide open. If Atlanta can get the W, there'll be a full game in front of Tampa Bay no matter what, even if they're tied. They got the win. And that is important, especially right now. So Geno Smith, cool, calm, consistent for the Seahawks. Excellent job of executing the game plan. Seahawks look good. And with the 49ers loss, they're looking really good. They are looking really good. They got a shot. They got a shot. I like the Seahawks. I like Mike Macdonald. I like it. Defense is solid. It's getting healthier. Offense has weapons and a quarterback that understands he needs to play within the system. That's all you can ask. All right, let's get to the 2 big matchups. Houston against Green Bay. Now, I said it, Green Bay's defense was going to be tough for Houston. Joe Mixon had a really good game. C.J. Stroud did not. Nico Collins evidently is a lot bigger piece to this team than most realize. I mean, that's about as simple as I can put it. You got Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. You got these guys, and the offense just doesn't look the same without Nico Collins. It may be a trust factor. Tank Dell was the one getting those bombs from C.J. Stroud. Maybe he's just got to get his trust back with Tank Dell. I don't know. But even with that, with how lackluster the offense was, they were leading. It took a walk-off field goal attempt by the Packers to beat them at home. If this game's in Houston, Houston wins this football game. These 2 teams were each other. They absolutely were each other. Young, energetic, full of life. Organizations and fan bases that are excited for the future. It doesn't hurt either one of them. Let's just be honest, it doesn't hurt either one of them. Texans are 5-2. They're fine. They get a home game against the Colts, they'll be 6-2 next week. Don't worry about it. They'll be okay. They've played 2 of the harder games on their schedule. They already played the Minnesota Vikings. They already played the Green Bay Packers. Both of those were on the road. They're at home for the Detroit Lions. You know, they already beat the Buffalo Bills. Texans beat the Bills. So, you know, let's just be honest here. This Texan team is lining up very well. It's lining up very well for them. The schedule is a little bit rougher. They finished first in the division last year. That's what happens. Just is. So we'll see where it goes the rest of the season. But Jordan Love is a little bit reckless. He's got a lot of Brett Favre in him. He looks like Brett Favre throwing some of these throws. You just wonder what the crap he's doing. Now, I love him. The potential's there. Everything else is there. I mean, everything's fine. You can't really complain too much. But My gosh. Because of one of his throws, they almost didn't have a chance to kick a field goal for the win. Luckily, he overthrew the defensive back, too, because the defensive back had the position. Could have easily been an interception, but the defensive back couldn't get to the ball either. Just bad. The offense, Bobby Slowick needs to figure it out for the Texans. The Packers, Matt LaFleur needs to figure out how to rein in Jordan Love. But both teams are each other. Excitement, organizations with very, very high expectations for what the future may hold. It's good. It's very good. Do not sell any stock. Buy all the stock you can on these two teams. All right, the last game we're going to go over in the quarterback is Jared Goff and Sam Darnold. See if I can wrap this up so we don't run too long today. Jared Goff is in a perfect of heavenly scenarios. Two amazing running backs, the best offensive line in football, a possession receiver with great hands, a speedster receiver that can beat anybody over the top, a really good tight end, a backup tight end that definitely ain't that bad, an offensive coordinator, play caller that is very committed to keeping the defense on their toes and understanding situations. And Jared Goff is on a absolutely he's on a 3-game heater right now. He really is. The confidence is through the roof. And the Detroit Lions have every reason to be excited for what will happen. Every single reason to be excited for what can happen. I think they need to make a trade to replace Hutchinson. I think when it comes playoff time, they're going to miss Hutch. They're going to miss him. They need somebody else. They need somebody else that can create a little bit of pressure. You don't have to break the bank for them, but you need somebody else that can do it. Okay? And right now, simple thought is, Detroit's the best. Detroit beats Kansas City. Detroit's very consistent. You see the same game week in and week out. Whether or not they execute or not, that's the ultimate question. But they're the same team. The exact same team. Every week. Now, the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings with Kevin O'Connell have taken the reckless away from Sam Darnold. That's very, very important. He wasn't bad today. The running game had a run. But these are two of the top 4 teams in the NFC. And in my true opinion, the better team won. The team that's more set up for right now won the game. That's it. Don't complicate it. Do not complicate this. They were the better team. They were. There's nothing else I can say. What it looks like right now is that Minnesota may or may not be ready for what is going to take place later in the year when everybody is expecting what they do to come at them. Kevin O'Connell has done a great job. Sam Darnold has done a fantastic job of playing within the system. But you start playing these games. You played the Packers, got the W. You played the Lions, you got the loss. Okay? You got one loss now. I think the Vikings easily make the playoffs. Probably as a wild card. Where they go is going to make a difference. Who they play will make a difference. So it'll be exciting to see how the season unfolds with both of these teams. Vikings and Lions. Two teams that unfortunately the Indianapolis Colts see very, very soon. All right, guys. That is going to do it for this episode. Could go over a couple of the other matchups. Josh Allen had a huge day. Washington had a amazing day. We went over the injury for Jaden Daniels. But really, when it came down to it, quarterbacks are making the difference. We got some injuries, and it's going to change. It's going to change things. We've got skill player injuries. That really changes things. So we're going to have to see what happens. We got another week coming up. We'll do the 3 W's and 3 L's as we look ahead for the first time tomorrow night at week 8 in this NFL season. And hey, by the time you guys are listening to this, we may be talking trades a Wednesday night. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for tonight. Have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday night. Thank you so much for hanging out. This has been Sports Talk with Hawk. I am Hawk, and I'm out.